They say you can never go back home again. And honestly, I think they might be right. But maybe that's for the best. Maybe the best idea is moving forward while carrying some of that with you from your past. And we can experience that when we go and watch like SpongeBob. It's still the same show. It's still great, still funny, but it's not the same. And that's because you're not the same. I'm not the same. And so it doesn't hit the same way. And I had this exact same experience with Bomb Rush CyberFunk, where I've been a proponent of bringing Jet Set Radio to the future. Bring it to the Switch. I want to be able to play it on the go, and it's a game that could definitely be played on the Switch. And so when I started Bomb Rush CyberFunk, I wanted it to be a Jet Set Radio clone, but it's not. And honestly, it's good that it's not, because it moved forward while still carrying some of that nostalgic past with it. What's up, guys? I'm Nima. Let's talk about Bomb Rush CyberFunk. At first glance, you would think that this game really is just a clone of Jet Set Radio, and I think many people would assume that if they hadn't played more of the game. Starting out, it basically has the same story, in a way. You're part of a gang, a new gang, and you're trying to claim as much territory as you can over other gangs who are also trying to do the same, as all the gangs are vying for complete domination over New Amsterdam, this fictional world in which this game takes place. That sounds pretty much like Jet Set Radio. You're using graffiti to gain rep and to tag your area, while also avoiding the police. But there's more to this game than just that, and I think that's where the story of the game really sets it apart from its spiritual predecessor. One of the biggest ways that this happens is the main character. Now, he's part of a gang, or an entity, I should say, known as the Big Three. The Big Three pretty much own all of New Amsterdam. There's DJ Cyber, a robed, mysterious, masked individual, the leader of the Big Three, Felix, and your character, Fox. And you start off as you're imprisoned by the police. They finally caught up with you. Luckily for you, there's somebody there to set you free, named Trice. Now, he's hesitant to let you follow him, but once he figures out who you are, then he's more than excited to have you go along with him. Now, most of this prison break plays out pretty much like a tutorial and teaches you how to play the game. But at the very end of it, you lose something incredibly important to you. I mean, so important that it changes your identity. Something that, well, some people can't live without. I'd say many people can't. But after this traumatic event, you're actually awakened in Trice's hideout. Trice welcomes you into his group and introduces you to a third member, Belle, a female skater, who's also decided to call you Red now, as you're not really the same person you were before. Nevertheless, you're more than willing to join this ragtag team and to take over the 5 boroughs, become All City, and claim the item that is incredibly important to you. So, gameplay-wise, this game does play a lot like Jet Set Radio, where the entire world is pretty much your skate ground. You can do whatever you want, and you're not really punished for failing on a trick or falling off a half pipe, but also it doesn't gain to your rep, which I think is kind of counterproductive in a way, because there's sometimes you can chain together like these amazing combos, and it really didn't mean anything. The only thing that really gains you rep is the same as Jet Set Radio, and that is tagging. Tagging is incredibly important, and once you're at a place where you can tag, you'll be prompted to be able to choose which tag you actually use based on size and the pattern that you choose. Now, the reason why rep is so important is because you can't challenge the other gangs unless you have a certain rep, and you have to go to their area, their borough, if you will, and claim enough rep to be able to challenge them. Then, that's when the all-important combos and skater skills really come out, as you can only beat them by showing that you have more skill than they do. And this becomes a very addictive loop. It's so fun to be able to meet new characters this way, because so many of them have their own personality, and individually you try to conquer each of them to impress them, all culminating in one final skills challenge, if you will, as both teams go crazy, scoring as many points as they can, performing as many tricks as they can, and see who has the most points. The referee in this is the old heads. They've apparently been around for forever, and they kind of call who wins and loses. Don't worry, there's actually a score counter, so that helps you. But for, immersion's sake, we'll say it's the old heads that are giving you the score. And this game loop is broken up quite often by, you'll have run-ins with the cops which culminate in a boss fight, which is incredibly fun and engaging, and honestly one of the more serious aspects of this game. You see, because when you fight other gangs, if you will, it's not that serious. No one's out there to actually hurt each other. They're just trying to win over skills. But the cops, on the other hand, they want to destroy you. So that obviously adds more importance to these boss boss fights, and they're just a lot of fun. And let's be honest, it's always great when you get to fight the law, literally. But one of my favorite parts of the game is actually in between the boroughs. There's like these buffer zones where you can see many different gang members, including your own gang, all kind of tagging areas, skating, doing tricks, and it's just kind of open-ended. They're very small areas, and really it doesn't matter that much, but it's fun, and it's kind of cool just to see like this world where all these different skaters are just going crazy and tagging and having fun and being a part of that. I really enjoyed that. Even though it has very little importance to the game, it was just something that really immersed me into the game. One of the other really cool aspects about this game is you don't only have to play as Red or Fox. You see, he's a skateboarder. If you feel like playing as Trice on his bike or even Belle on her rollerblades, you can do that too, and it definitely feels a little bit different when using another character. I will also say there is a ton to collect in this game, everything from different tag styles to audio tracks. There's just a plethora of things to collect. Now, one thing I did forget is the performance. In fact, I finished this entire video and realized, hey, I forgot to add the performance. And the reason is because it performs so great that I didn't even think about it being an issue. And it was something I was concerned about when the game came out, but completely forgot about as soon as I started playing because of how well it actually performed. But yes, this game keeps up with everything. There's no lag, no issues, never had any crashing or anything of that nature. And you love to see it when a game company actually releases a game that doesn't need a ton of patches or isn't halfway broken or incomplete. So kudos to them for that. One of the aspects that I was truly happy with was controls. I actually thought, like, with this many mechanics to a game, and we're talking about all the different tricks you can do, grinding, tagging, and even having things like a phone, I thought the controls would be kind of difficult or maybe even a little bit complicating. But no, not at all. In fact, it was really, really accessible to a new user and really kind of gives you something to build on, meaning that it's not so overcomplicated, but you can use them to create rather extravagant tricks. And I really appreciated that. Now, I will say one thing though about the controls, and that is the phone. You're given a phone and controlling it is basically with your diagonal pad, and it kind of stinks, honestly. It feels like it would be better as sort of a pause menu type action or something like that instead of pulling it up while you're still skating. Now, I get the point of this, and that is because a lot of times they incorporate a map into your phone and that tells you where to go, and it's probably a little bit easier for navigation to be able to see the map and to move at the same time. But if I'm being honest, it's not like any more complicated than any other game that has a map where you pause and you can look around. So I felt like that would have been a better avenue for it, but it's still fine, and it wasn't a big issue once you got used to just kind of navigating the phone. And that brings us to graphics, where I think they did a decent job of bringing that cel-shaded art to the Nintendo Switch into present day, but at the same time, I do find it interesting that the background actually has more detail than the characters themselves. And I've never experienced that with a video game before, where the actual characters that you see closer up have less detail than some of the different environments. But honestly, I still think that this game holds up, and the graphics are those that could maybe use a little bit more detail in the long run, are going to be something that stands the test of time. As we often find out, the really detailed graphics end up looking bad in about a decade, as where typically pixel art and cel-shaded stuff just seems to hold up quite a bit longer. So that takes us to sound. And one of the things that I was really excited to see was that the original composer from Jet Set Radio is the same one who worked on this one. And let me tell you, this game has some bangers. This game has just that style, that vibe that I think really encompasses what we were all looking for in a remake or a successor or any of that to a Jet Set Radio. That kind of techno punk hip hop that really just adds character to the game. And it's really weird because this is a music style that I don't typically like, but yet when playing this game, it just feels perfect. Like it's another layer of paint that works perfectly upon this canvas. Now, looking at value, I was really torn on this because the game is $39.99, which is kind of pricey, but at the same time, I think they probably could have easily charged $50 or $60 for it, and I'm sure there's many other people who would prefer this to be around that $30 range, but I think they chose a good price to fall in. You know, it's not exactly a AAA. You definitely like more of a AA type game, so they don't ask for the AAA price, but at the same time, I would argue a little bit more produced than like a indie game. So I think it's a pretty decent value here. And if I were to give this game a number score, I would give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. It's got quite a bit of content. There's a lot to this game, and it's just a lot of fun. But I'm curious what you guys think. Have you guys played this one? Have you been excited for it? Are you waiting on a sale, or do you just not care at all for this one? Anything and everything, I truly appreciate. Thanks a lot, everyone. Love y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.